So I'm going to talk today about what missionaries do and the different ministries involved in mission work. First off, the different things that missionaries do are evangelism. They do church planting. They do set up an educational system. They set up a medicine ministry. They do some exploration, and they do community development. First off, evangelism is very important to a missionary's work. The Bible very clearly tells us that we are to evangelize because of Matthew 28:19 and 20, which we all know is the Great Commission. Jesus told us to go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So that is what we are called to do. We are called to go out and evangelize, not just to tribal people, but to all of the world, anyone who is an unbeliever. Next, missionaries, they church plant. They go out to that tribe, and then they set up a church there, and they teach, and then they make believers within that tribe, and then it goes on from there. Within that, they set up an education system. They set up medicine, and they do community development. First off, community development is the missionary going into that tribe and helping that community in any way possible. The missionary will try and help them agriculturally, so that way they have plenty of food, and teach them some of our modern ways to grow food or to catch food by hunting. And then they help out with different needs around the community. Like if someone needs a house built or they have something to get rid of, they'll help them do that in any way they can. Next, educational ministry. This is kind of one of the more important ones that they do because this sets up the entirety of their teaching that they do within the tribe. So first off, the missionary will start off in the tribe, getting to know everyone in the tribe, learning the language, sitting down, going through different people's homes, and just trying to get them to teach them the language in any way they can. Then after they learn the language, they will write down the language in their own alphabetical way and try and make it easier so that way they can read the language later written down on paper and still know exactly what they're talking about. Because certain tribal groups have nasal sounds or accents on certain words, and it's a lot harder to remember those, so they try and write it down in a specific way that they know that this word has this accent on this syllable, and so on. Then, after they write down the language, they set up a school system, and they start teaching those in the tribe how to read and how to write. It's very important for the people in the tribe to learn how to do that, so that way, further down in the missions, they can write their own sentences and books and things, and that way they'll be able to read the Bible eventually given to them by those missionaries. And education within the tribe might not seem like a big deal, but it can make the difference to that tribe. Just taking the time to teach that tribe or village to learn how to read and write shows them how much you actually do care about them and care about their education, because they're set off in the middle of the jungle or in the middle of a desert and they have no idea what a pen is. They just write with whatever they have. Some of them write with a burnt wood stick and they write in ash. Some people might find other methods to write in. Some of them might write with animal's blood that they have killed, which sounds very gross, but it's a reality. And so we would go in as missionaries and we would teach them that there's this much simpler way how to do this, and that they don't have to take all of those, like an hour or two out of their day to just try and find a way to just write down what they want to write. And they don't even know how to write, so they would just make random markings or scribblings or drawings. And so teaching them how to write would also benefit, so that way if there was a deaf person in their village, and they could communicate to them and not have to just leave them in the dark. And so one of the next ministries is literature ministry. This ministry would come after the missionary has written down the language. They would then take that language and they would have to learn every single word as possible. And for translating the Bible, they might have to make up some words because some tribes don't have a word for God or for certain words within the Bible. So they have to kind of mash some words up from that language and make a whole other word and then teach it to those people. So the missionary would translate the Bible as best they can. Then they would get those Bibles published. They would send them off somewhere, get them all written down on paper, and get copies of them, and then they'd have them transported back to that village or tribe, and then they'd be able to distribute the new Bibles among the new believers of that tribe and village. So that way they could have their own Bibles and they'd be able to just pick it up and read it whenever they want, like the luxury of us having our Bibles. Because some of us have multiple Bibles and we only use one. So why not let other people have Bibles as well that don't have them and want one? So they would help give these new Bibles to those tribal people so that way they can keep reading and keep learning on their own as well. Another ministry within missions is the medical ministry. Now this ministry is very important because it can do several things for that people group. One, it can alleviate human suffering. The people group probably has just had so many deaths and they've relied on their witches within their village or the Wiccans to heal their people, and that doesn't always work because those people aren't real. The only one that is real that can heal us is God and the medicine that he has given us in our society. So we have to share that with those people. And this can also combat ignorance, superstition, by showing the people group that they don't have to rely on the witches or Wiccans to heal them. There's no spiritual beings that cast down diseases upon them if they've done something bad. It just happens because it's a natural process. So this would alleviate their belief in spirits, and it would show them that you can get healed without having to sacrifice anything. And it would also dispel prejudice, and it would create a goodwill towards those people. Those people would see the love of God in you, and they would want to know more on why you're helping them. Why help complete strangers who are dying if you don't even know them? It would also promote public health, so that way they would have personal hygiene, and so that way no one else would get sick. So you could teach them how to take a bath with soap and water, or how to brush their teeth, or how to take care of themselves, so that way diseases don't spread and that they'd be safe from those diseases further on. And then a medical ministry is also a good way to point that patient to Christ. Whenever a believer is helping someone in any aspect of life, they should always try and point it towards Christ. And the help that we're giving them is from the love of Christ. And that is why we are doing it, because Christ told us to love others as he has loved us. And so one of the firm ways of doing that within a tribe is medical ministry, saving lives and healing those that are sick, and then directing them to Christ and telling him that he is our great physician, and none of us will be able to heal as he ever did. And if we don't point that patient to Christ, if we just kind of heal them and send them on their way, then we've jeopardized that opportunity that we have, and we might not ever get that opportunity again. So then there are other ministries outside of the tribe that a person could do. There's the supply buyer that buys supplies for the missionaries within the tribe. They give them a set budget on how much money they have from supporters, which is another ministry, is supporting those missionaries within the tribe. If you don't feel called to go out, you support them by sending them money or praying for them in any way you can. And that supply buyer would then buy you all the food that you need, any wood, nails, anything that you need to build a house and be able to live life in that village. And then there are also maintenance workers that help maintain airplanes and the airstrips on the field, and they just help things run so much smoother. and it just continues that ministry on, so that way no problems will occur. And then there's also the pilot who flies those supplies in and helps the maintenance worker with anything they need. And they fly down there and check on the people in the village and see if they're still doing okay, if they need any medical supplies, if they need anything else. And when those Bibles get translated and published, that's how they get them to the village. The pilot would fly them in. And so there's just so many different ministries within missions that you can get involved with. So you don't have to be scared if you don't feel like you're being called to go into a tribe and people might push you to go into a tribe. You just do whatever you feel God telling you to do, and if that's staying home, then that's fine. If that's going into a tribe, that's fine too. We're just called to be missionaries in any way of life.